This week, Mimecast's very own Jamie Fernandes and Karsten Chearis join us to discuss the recent threat actor trends. Michael Reutman, the chief data scientist at Kenna Security, joins us to discuss how to use AI and machine learning to solve InfoSec problems. In the security news, Verizon has suggestions on how to make DNS more secure. Microsoft is trying to fix another Kerberos vulnerability. Bumble made some blunders. Why trying to write an article about rebooting your router was a terrible idea. Popping shells on Linux via the file manager. Trump fires Krebs. Backdoors on your TV. And why PHP is still a really, really bad idea, regardless. All that and more on this episode of Paul's Security Weekly.
This is Security Weekly. For security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly. Qualys has brought together vulnerability management and patch management, letting security teams discover vulnerabilities and apply patches immediately, all within a single, unified app. Sign up for a free trial of Qualys VMDR, vulnerability management, detection, and response today at securityweekly.com/Qualys. The average large enterprise has 24 million vulnerabilities. The good news is only 5% will probably be exploited. But which 5%? That's where Kenna comes in. Kenna Security's modern vulnerability management technology combines real-time threat intelligence, data science, and automated risk analysis to prioritize the vulnerabilities that pose the biggest threat to your organization. Team up with Kenna Security and make the most of your limited resources. Learn more at securityweekly.com/Kenna Security. NetSparker, the developers of a comprehensive automated web security platform that includes web vulnerability scanning, assessment, and management. NetSparker's desktop and cloud-based security solutions employ a unique and dead-accurate vulnerability scanning engine that automatically verifies vulnerabilities and provides a proof of concept. For more information, visit them on the web at securityweekly.com/NetSparker.
Before springing onto the cybersecurity scene, he worked as a caffler, a fellmonger, and a mob thatcher in Victorian England. He's none other than Paul Asadorian.
Welcome to Paul's Security Weekly. This is episode number 675, recorded on November 19th, 2020, right here in G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island. To my left, it is the doctor. They call him Dr. No, Dr. Doug is actually what I call him. Welcome to
Well, I didn't know what you were going to say. I've heard them all.
Dr. Love. It was one of those.
No, I know Dr. Love.
White Snake, Poison, one of those. Yeah. They all sound the same.
Yeah, I don't know who.
Because they all sound the same. It's 80s hair bands, right?
Yeah,
that was Dr.
I am
Feelgood.
all about the 80s hair bands, yeah.
Was that Motley Crue? It was Motley Crue.
They call him Dr. Love. I don't know.
Dr. Feelgood.
That was
No,
Dr.
that's
Feel-
Kiss. They call me
Kiss?
Dr. Love.
Oh, no,
yeah,
you're right.
Kiss.
It was Kiss.
Call me.
Yes. On the lines, now that we got that straightened out, on the lines remotely, Mr. Tyler Robinson is here with us. Tyler, welcome.
Wow, I think some of those I might have been conceived to, so...
That's scary that you know that. Or speculate anyway.
You start having flashbacks or something when that happens?
Moving right along to Mr. Joff Thayer. Joff, welcome.
Hello. It is good to be here again on a Thursday night and seeing all the people that I love, man. All the people that I love. And you know what? Here's the better thing. 2020 is just 1 month away from being over. There it is.
True. I share a little of your optimism. I don't think all our problems are going to go away when the clocks turn over to 2021, but I do believe things will get better with the global pandemic, at least.
Y2K was that way, right? Like, it went away.
It did, but that was different. That was a software bug, not a global pandemic and virus.
Not a biology bug, yeah.
Yes. Mr. Lee Neely is here with us. Lee, welcome.
Good to be here 102 years later than the last time we tried a pandemic, and I think we're doing it the same. But we're never setting the time machine to 2020 again.
That's right. Mr. Jeff Mann is here with us. Jeff, welcome.
Yeah, I don't know if there was music playing, but my oldest brother swears he heard my conception.
That's frightening as well. I'm sure.
It is frightening.
Creepy.
Hopefully he's doing well in therapy.
Yeah. He just sits all day rocking in the corner like, oh God, oh God.
Yeah, that actually would explain quite a bit about my brother.
Yes.
So
Register for our upcoming webcast and technical trainings. You will learn why you should stop trying to discover and classify data. You can also learn how to thwart attackers using deception and how to build a risk-based vulnerability management program. Interesting. One of those webcasts happened. I learned about how to thwart attackers with deception today with Tony Cole from Ativo, so you should definitely check that out. I also did the Perimeter 81 webcast, which was a lot of fun with Amit Barakat. Great guy, great company. I had a lot of fun. It was great questions from the audience. To tune in to our upcoming webcast and register for them, securityweekly.com/webcast/on-demand gets you to our previously recorded ones. This segment is sponsored by Mimecast. SecurityWeekly.Mimecast is the place to go to learn more. Joining us today from Mimecast are Jamie Fernandes and Karsten Chearis. Jamie has spent 20 years in SaaS product development and product management, not product marriage, although probably pretty similar, actually. Karsten Chearis is a product manager for web threats and shadow IT for Mimecast. They're joining us today to talk about the latest trends in threat actors and attacks happening. Karsten and Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you.
I want to start, and I'll start with Jamie, and just ask you how you got your start in information security.
I actually started at Sophos. Let's see, going on six, 7 years ago now. I had been working in enterprise software. Started as an engineer, wasn't good at it. Moved into product management. There's a lot of ways into product management, and
we appreciate your honesty, Jamie.
I went over to. I had a couple of former coworkers that were at Sophos. They were starting a new business in cloud, with cloud email security, and so I went over to help them, build that product and start that business. 7 years ago. That was my start in information security.
Fantastic. Karsten, how'd you get your start?
Yeah, so, like any good security professional, I'll say cybersecurity is the responsibility of all employees. So probably my first tech job, I was doing things with security, even if it was just basic, making sure desktops were patched. And eventually I got to the point, I'll say, I worked for a company called Virtuoso. Mm-hmm. And among other things, I was an Office 365 admin. I implemented their enterprise mobility management solution, their endpoint protection, Microsoft Intune. And that's really, I would say, when I really started to understand it and see phishing attacks and try to recover from them, try to stop the bad guys, actually see attacks in real life, and then kind of grew from there.
I see Tyler's face when you said Intune, and it was the look of being impressed. And from what I've read on Intune, it sounds like I should also be impressed that you've done Intune. Is that an accurate statement from the folks on the show today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, anybody that's helped develop and steer Intune to what it is today, like Intune's pretty awesome from an MDM.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I want to start with just asking Jamie and Karsten about some of the threats that you're seeing. We see a lot of interesting things that are happening today. I think I want to start with the blended threat with email phishing, and that not only the maybe communications being email and something else, but also some of the blended kind of vulnerabilities and exploits that one could use maybe in different attacks, but they're being kind of blended into email phishing. If either of you could kind of speak to that as to what you observed today at Mimecast.
Yeah, so this is what's interesting. I have a coworker who took the CISP and passed it. And he told me that out of all of the questions, only 2 of them were related to email. And that's really, really interesting, right? Because there's so many parts in security, and you would think that email is a small one. But yet, when we look at the statistics, it's still, I think, 91 to 92% of attacks start with an email. However, attackers are recognizing that email security is a booming business. Like the defenders are getting better. We're recognizing more things. So the attackers have two goals. The second goal is to drop the payload, to steal the credentials, to bring down the network. The first goal is always evasion. If they cannot evade, it does not matter what that second goal was. So they're doing their best to evade the SEG level, if you will, and try to basically utilize the web. So the email will come in and say, hey, here's a customer complaint. Here's your promotion information. You click that link. It's quote unquote clean. It takes you to a Google Drive document. And then once you go there and you download the document, that's when there are some malicious links, or that's where the macros encoding comes in. It's the same thing with text messages, right? It's totally bypassing email and it's going straight to a smishing attack. Or even now, what's scary is it's the social networking. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these fake profiles, right? The hot singles in your area, and when you click the link, you realize they're not hot singles, but your laptop.
It's never hot singles. What is up with that?
Never. It never is. I mean, that's at least what everybody tells me. I mean, it's never hot singles.
It's like politicians that tell the truth and hot singles. They're just in the same category to me. It's just never the truth.
But you got to keep clicking because you never know. I mean, you try
one time.
One time you're going to get hot singles.
I mean, I actually have a virtual machine that's dedicated. It's called Hot Singles, and
it's clicking all the links. Hot milfs in my area, hot single. I want them all. Just playing the odds.
Sorry,
we got sidetracked, Karsten.
We're incorrigible.
We are.
Like good.
That's all it took. That's all it took.
Everybody does need a virtual machine though for that. Mine actually is called Kyle. So it wasn't as cool as Joff's, but I mean, you need that so that you can go in and click on these links.
I call mine Kenny because I kill it all the time.
Mine's just called Kyle because I don't know.
Karsten,
the name of my virtual machine actually vacillates it between Hot Singles and research.
Oh boy, Karsten, do you find that email, SMS, and social media messaging, Karsten or Jamie, are being used in the same attack? In other words, maybe I get a text message and then I get an email that kind of relates to that to make the attack more believable.
Jamie, you want to take that one and then I come in?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we've seen various permutations of that, but usually there's a single vector, right? I think we have definitely been kind of focusing on the emergence of the other vectors like Karsten described, right? Social media messaging. There's less weaponization that we're seeing. And so, the links are good, then they're not good. Or they're going to a site that has a good reputation. We've mentioned some of the cloud file share vendors and things like that, where it even can get past the web proxy, web security, and then, it becomes malicious. So it varies. I mean, Karsten, would you kind of add color there?
Yeah, so I would definitely agree. It varies, and it varies based upon the sophistication of the threat actor. So, for example, one of the more advanced attacks we've seen is for the threat actor to send an email, and that email has a link, and it's quote unquote safe. Like, it's actually nothing malicious there, but within the email, within the link, there's tracking pixels. And so me being able to send that link or the email, I should say, with the link to Johnny, and when Johnny clicks it, I recognize, oh wow, Johnny is actually on vacation.
Well, hold on, I'm gonna stop you right there, Karsten, because you're not gonna trick Johnny, because Johnny this week, Johnny gets the A for the day. Johnny goes, Paul, I got a phishing attack, and I want you to look at it. I'm like, okay, forward it to me. He's like, I'm gonna forward it to our support team as well. And lo and behold, he gets an email back from support, and they go, "That was part of our phishing campaign that we're doing internally, and congratulations, you spotted it." And I'm so proud of Johnny and our entire team for just being on the ball, catching him. So you're gonna have a tough time fishing Johnny. That's all I'm saying, based on his track record right now.
It's gonna be tough, Karsten.
Let's move to the intern Bobby.
Yeah, there you go.
Gustavo.
Yeah. So when the email comes in and the link is clicked, we can now see that Bobby is in Hawaii or Bobby's basically out of the office. So now I can take that information. Maybe I can look on LinkedIn, on his Facebook, on his Twitter, get some social information, social networking information. And now I can craft a more dedicated attack. So now I can take that email and pretend that I'm Bobby or whoever and say, hey, as you know, I'm in the islands. I'm on vacation. Well, no one's on real vacation now with COVID, but I'm out of the office, as you know, and I need you to process this request. So kind of going back to your original question, it depends upon how sophisticated that attacker is. If it's a script kiddie, they're probably not connected. But if it's a state actor, something like that, then you can definitely expect something more intense.
Yeah, and those are the attacks that I worry about from phishing. Is not, I think we all have as Johnny's example, right, have a heightened sense of awareness when we get email from the outside in. But when the email comes from an internal employee, whether that's faked or not, let's say someone like Tyler with his evil face on right now is password spraying and compromises an account and then uses that as the phishing account. And even better if Tyler has that person's credentials and realizes that person's on vacation and then sends the email and it actually comes from that person, oh man, that's potentially a pretty devastating attack.
100%. And if you take that, let's go a couple of steps past that. Now, again, it's no longer work from home. It's work from anywhere. Yeah. Right. People are going over grandmama and granddaddy's house to work so we can be with our families during all of this stuff. And often people aren't checking their email on their computer, on their Mac, on their laptop. They're checking it from their mobile phone. And when you do that, you lose so much visibility. So now I can't actually see that the email is coming from Karsten at fakedomain.com. It looks just like Karsten at mimecast.com, right? I lose the ability to hover over the link. So I can't see that it's actually going to badsite.com. And then I know there's some listeners out there saying, well, I'm good because I have SPF and DKIM and DMARC. And that's great. DNS authentication is great until they don't come from your actual domain. They're coming from a permutation of that domain, right? So instead of securityweekly.com, I'm using the Cyrillic E. And that E looks just like the English character, but when you go to the domain, it's taking you somewhere else. So it's the attackers are thinking on their feet, and defenders have to do the same.
So how do we go about protecting some of these? Like there are 100 ways to get an email in, right? Like we're talking, fingerprinting a client is as simple as sending an email from, a trusted domain. So we send something from O365, or we stand up a domain in O365 that then gets, a different weighted value to it from a spam filtering standpoint. Or we're doing something from an ad tracking campaign site, or MailChimp, or one of the campaign stuff. Like, how do we as defenders distinguish and delineate the differentiators that are actually used between attackers versus what's actually being used by businesses in order to get an email campaign out or to do some sort of ad tracking?
Yeah, so this is what's interesting. So prior to being a product manager at Mimecast, I was a sales engineer, and obviously ran a lot of proof of concepts. And when you're looking at it from the email standpoint, you would be surprised at how many organizations don't even know what companies are allowed to spoof them, right? Like they have constant contact as one of the allowed spoofers, but actually there's also SurveyMonkey and marketing spun up 4 other sites. And, so you have all these things that you don't know about. So I'll say before we get to the technology, we literally need to get on the phone with one another and figure out, who do we trust? With whom are we communicating, right? Get that list. Now you can do things such as your SPF, your DKIM, your DMARC. Now you can do your web security policies. Now you can sanction and block apps, right? And sometimes you have to do a smoke test. You disable things, right? You prevent access. And then when someone hollers, you're like, oh, okay, well, this is approved. Now, I created this documentation for you to request access to this. You do it and you go from there. So it's attackers are talking to one another, and often defenders are not. And I think that's where we start to run into the problems.
So you're saying don't put a star asterisk all Gmail or O365. We actually do something intelligent and start from a deny all standpoint.
Stop using Gmail for work email also. Stop.
Don't whitelist full IP ranges.
Right.
Yeah. Also, I think that both technology and humans have to be aware of behavior, and I really like humans that do this. But we can't always count on a human to make the right decision. We can't count on technology either, right? But the profile of the behavior, that if it's a spoofed email from maybe a service like Facebook, or maybe a person like Doug, and I get an email from Doug, and I'm like, Doug, well, first of all, Doug never sends me email. Right? He may text me.
I'm not allowed to anymore.
Right? He may text me, or he may, send me a Slack message. Which actually, side benefit, if you don't answer any of your emails, people find other ways to get a hold of you, and therefore,
well, yeah, there's actually a lot of emails from me in there going, please, Paul, please.
Right? And like people sending me email is probably anomalous in and of itself. But I digress. If Doug were to send me an email, I'd be like, Doug normally doesn't send me email like that, and therefore that is suspicious in and of itself. And so I can look at that from a technology perspective.
Right.
The next time we're talking about AI and machine learning, right? I can also look at that from a human perspective, that if one of the reasons why Johnny spotted the phishing email is like, it came from Facebook, and this email account I've never associated with Facebook, therefore red flag. The other thing is, if it came from Paul, and it wasn't like Paul never sends me email, like we literally work in the next room from each other. Like, why would he send me email, asking me for something when?
So you're asking an awful lot out of people.
Well, which is why we need technology. Which is my question for Karsten and Jamie: is what do you see effective technology out there that can kind of help humans make those decisions to say, yeah, that's not normally the email I received from this person.
Yeah, and we've been looking at that, right? So if you think about kind of the layered approaches that Endpoint has taken, like email kind of has definitely evolved in that direction over the last, I would say 3-4 years, with the emergence of, these AI-based like CESS vendors that are doing what they call advanced phishing detection. And some of them are good. And, and we've recognized that there is a need to understand the traffic, the people that you are regularly corresponding with, so that we can establish sender trust in a different way, using machine learning and tools like that to be able to then deepen the protection that we're delivering. Like, another vector is the supply chain, right? Like, you could get an email from someone that you do business with frequently that you trust. They could be compromised. And they could be compromised specifically to attack you. Like, we see that all the time. And when we look at kind of when we break it down for the customer, we can see that someone in their chain was compromised. They started sending phishing attacks into the organization. We saw those and kind of helped them respond. But it's another dimension of trust. So having that learned traffic and then being able to say, hey, this says it's Karsten, but Karsten doesn't send to you from this address.
Right.
Or this location in the world, right? So it's probably not Karsten, and getting you to realize that you need to stop before you do the next thing.
Right. Like, that invoice isn't really late. Like, it was paid. Don't pay it again to the attacker, right? That's a classic supply chain attack.
Yeah, it happens A lot, yes.
And what kind of flagging? I mean, like in the old days, they always had like we had double ring phones to tell us that the call was coming from outside the building. What kind of flagging do you think we need to put on emails just to try to make people pay attention?
It's a ringtone that goes, "The call is coming from inside the house."
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pick that one up. But I mean, I get emails all the time that say external on them, so the university flags anything that doesn't come from the internal domain. Although you can spoof it, but I mean, what will get people's attention? I mean, will they respond to ext on there, or does it take more? You have to be in bright red flashing letters and
hot singles.
You're working the other side of it.
I think the general UX pattern that we've seen emerge is there's some kind of colored HTML banner that, depending on the scenario that it is catching, is either a warning. It could be red. It could be blue. It's a colored banner. The text, appending to the subject line. People get fatigued to certain UX patterns, right? So doing something visual and in your face, like I think has been what we've seen work, and we've gotten feedback from customers that is something that they would prefer us to do.
Well, I know I get fatigued from it because every single email I get from school says EXT on it, so I don't even pay attention.
Yeah, then
to them anymore.
You're desensitized to it. Yeah, that's a great point, Doug.
Yeah, I would
actually
add
the counter
that.
argument I hear.
What?
Sorry, Lee. Well, sorry. Go ahead, Lee, and then Karsten. Or not.
What I was going to say is that the getting fatigued is the counter argument I keep hearing. I see folks doing it, and then they say, but their users don't see it after a while. And I think Karsten had a response.
Yeah. That's I was actually going to speak to that. So when you're used to seeing the same banner over and over and over, even now that the email is allegedly coming from your CEO, and you see that external banner, because you're so used to seeing the external banner, it's just going out the window, right? So to piggyback on what Jamie said, and then to take that a step further, you need a solution that can dynamically tag the banner based upon the content of the message. So being able to say that this message is coming, or the sender display name is Karsten Chearis, but the email domain is Karsten@fakedomain.com. Actually calling that out does something for the end user. As Jamie said, changing the color of what the banner says, also that's drawing attention. But then when you also recognize that, okay, what if the attacker actually gained control of the internal email account? So now it's a compromised account. This is actually coming from Karsten's mailbox, but it's not coming from Karsten, right? And so now we're going. So the messages are, or the attacker's already there. They're sending an email, and now they're trying to get you to click on this Google Drive or this Dropbox link. Now it's kind of going back to IT to work with the business to be able to say, the only solution we use for file sharing is OneDrive. So why don't we just block access to, not a stab against any vendor, but drop access to Google Drive, drop access to WeTransfer. Why are we opening up that vector? That's literally what TrickBot is doing. It's telling individuals, hey, look at this Google Drive document and go ahead and download it. But if you don't use Google Drive in your organization, why even allow your employees to get there? There's a DLP risk. There's an attack vector, right? So if you can, what's the phrase I said? If you can deny the unneeded, you can prevent the unwanted, right? So if you deny access to the unneeded apps, you block them, then you can avoid the unwanted consequence, which is an attack or a breach.
But that's great, Karsten, because what that forces an attacker to do is much better reconnaissance and intelligence gathering.
Yeah.
And really have to hone. If they're going to be successful, they're going to have to really do their homework. And I find those are to internally phish people is almost unfair if you get an attacker with the right mindset, because you're just going to prey upon what you know people are using and what you know email messages look like. And one that I love to prey upon is the anti-phishing solution. Like, hey, this message was marked as good, or hey, guess what? You successfully spotted a phishing attack. Click here to claim your prize.
Right.
Like, you can be really evil with that stuff and really successful if you've done your homework.
Agreed. And I was listening to another podcast. Can't remember what it was, but the defender was basically saying you have defense in depth for a reason, because a layer is going to fail. If as a representative of a vendor, if I told you that Mimecast is going to prevent all attacks, you're going to hang up in my face. Like, no one's perfect, right? So you want to have layered defense, not just to protect you, but to dissuade attackers from targeting you, right? The more difficult you make, or the more difficult of a victim you are, or an alleged or potential victim you are, the more people are going to leave you alone, right? So if you go to the gym and you look a little strong like me, because I bench press, tractor tires when I'm bored, right? Then people they don't bother you, right? So it's the same thing with layered defense. So
I think it's interesting if you raise the bar, so much higher, that you've got an increased likelihood that you're going to be able to detect and respond, and you're at least really reducing your attack surface. And it makes making attackers work harder, I think, is really where we're at with defense. And what I mean by that is, if I make an attacker, like, getting the email in that's a whole art in and of itself. Doing enough intelligence gathering and information gathering to get the email in and make it look believable is just part of the game. Second part of the game is, what do I have them clicking on and where are they going? Now, as we've seen with recent nation state attacks, the bar was high enough for nation states to go, yeah, I'm going to find a vulnerability in Apache servers at Sony, and that's the link I'm going to use. If I'm a defender, that's where I want to force the attacker to go to, right? And then in that particular attack, the attackers were like, well, I want to really increase, if someone does click this link, not only am I using a flaw I found on one of Sony's websites, but I've got a couple of Chrome 0 days that I'm willing to burn on that. Like, if that's the length you're putting attackers through, then you're doing a really good job. And I tell you what, you're doing an amazing job if you can spot and thwart that attack at any of those stages, because that was really a wake-up call for me as to how hard someone could work, nation state could work, to gain access to an organization.
Well, I always call it an infinite series. So, I mean, it really is. I mean, that's why defense in depth, like Karsten said, is so important, because at some point you will get compromised. If you send enough emails, if you take enough action, and if you can make it painful enough, they may move on down the road. But they are now saying, if they want you, they're going to come get you. And they're more targeting like that and saying, look, we want this company. We want this company. It's not just spray and play or pray and spray or whatever you want to call it.
Well, I think it was, I don't want to say, because I don't remember if it was off the air or on the air, but in that particular attack I'm describing, we've talked about in the past couple of weeks on the shows, CISA came out and said it was Iran, then others said it was Russia. And since then, CISA indicted Russian hackers in GRU in a very specific group. My theory, those are the same hackers. Jeff, 1 second. Those are the same hackers that pulled off that attack. My other theory was they weren't just spraying and praying, that they were after a specific target. If it is that group, my guess is they're after a specific target. And those are the kinds of things we have to defend against. Jeff.
So I have sort of a multi-part philosophical question, and it's somewhat based on, in the Discord server, there's all sorts of sample subject lines that people are suggesting of things that will likely work. And I actually got an email from a vendor in the last day or two, and I won't say who the vendor was, but they're a vendor that's selling some sort of security awareness solution, and they talk about, phishing is a big problem, phishing is a big concern, and then they have this link to this short 10-minute video. Watch this, and we'll tell you all about it. And I'm like, there's just something wrong with a phishing company giving me a link to click just on principle. And my philosophical question is twofold. One, have we reached a point where in our industry, we really should stop sending links to people in general because, we haven't talked about it, but how often are these phishing attacks based on what looks like a vendor trying to, have you click on the latest webinar, link to sign up for something, go to our webpage? Is it time for us to lead by example, we as an industry, by doing something else, and let's just get away from clicking on things altogether? I guess that's my philosophical question.
Jim, you want to jump in?
Anyone can respond.
I mean, it's a fair point. I guess that, it's fundamentally, how do you then, most email communications that are, I don't want to say marketing oriented, but informational in nature may have, that kind of next level that you want to go down to. So how do we get people there without presenting a link? Is there I guess it's an interesting question, right? I mean, I 100% hear what you're saying, and a lot of marketing in our industry is driven by email and click here to learn more, or gated materials where you have to click and also give personal information to get them, right? So that's kind of another tool in the marketer's toolbox. Karsten, I don't know if you guys have any with that.
Yeah. Anything else, Karsten?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I have a second question, so go ahead and respond. I have hopefully an easier question next.
It's a very, very tough question. So even if you look at Security Weekly, right? Even on Twitter, I just retweeted the tweet saying, "Hey, we're going to have Jamie and Karsten from Mimecast. We're going to learn about blah 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 blah," and I retweeted that, right? And so even in the tweet, there's a link. So it's a very interesting question. At the same time, being on the customer side, do I want to get an email with an embedded video of them telling me about it instead of me clicking a link? So you have ethics and you have technology and you have convenience. It's a whole lot in one. So,
well, it does sort of beg the need for automation and technology that tries to protect against the ultimate human failure. But you're sort of touching on what was going to be my second question, and I first had thought of this when Paul was saying earlier, well, I don't even send anybody emails, so they've learned to contact me by other means, and that made me wonder, what's the state of the phishing industry, as it were, pursuing alternative ways of getting to the people other than email, like social media accounts, presumably it'd be a little bit hard for them to get on a Slack channel, but something like a Discord server that we're also using right now. How are there attackers and threat actors that are attempting phishing attacks over things other than email, and sort of what's the state of that versus, I guess email still works. That's probably still a common attack vector.
Yeah. So think about the state of where we are right now because of the pandemic, right? There are a lot of businesses. It's actually forced a second wave of cloud migration. There were a lot of, small, medium, even, smaller enterprises that were relying heavily on on-premise infrastructure and have been forced to move to cloud and adopt services like Teams, like Slack, and things like that to allow their employees to collaborate, right? And so they have the same tactics that I would use in email, whether it's a bad link, whether it's a weaponized attachment. I could do that in Teams, right? Teams has a capability that allows you to invite external parties to chats. There's Slack, you can set up channels and have external parties join those chats. So if those folks are compromised, and that's another surface and another way in, and Teams does have ATP embedded, right? But Slack, there's various tools that can secure Slack, and like if you get a bad link in Slack, like our web security or web proxies will look at that, examine that link, and prevent bad things. But the file piece, can still come through. So there's definitely work to be done there. I mean, and we are looking at that actually, but there is work to be done there.
I'm going to tell a story on myself because you mentioned Teams. My company, my day job, we use a security awareness tool. I'm not going to say who the vendor is, and so we have, periodic phishing campaigns that go on, randomly throughout the year.
Did it get you, Jeff, or are you more like Johnny?
Twice. No,
you should talk to Johnny.
The first, no. So hear me out. The first one was a shipping notice. It came from UPS. Track. Click here to track your changes. I'm like, okay, you got me on that one. I should have hovered over it and looked at the URL that popped up. The second one was a Teams invite, and you just mentioned Teams and said Teams has got built-in APT, and my thought is, well, what good is that? Sorry,
Advanced Threat Protection, ATP. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm dyslexic. Okay. What good is Teams having that if somebody's spoofing a Teams invite? And what frosted me about the second one, not that I was like, oh damn, I fell for it. It was that the email was so well crafted it came from a particular person in my organization that had a particular management responsibility for a particular part of our practice, and the invitation, you've just been added to a Teams, go here, was so spot on and specific. I was like, well, wait a minute, how's somebody that's really going to be doing this type of a phishing attack going to get that information? And I went off to Google and went online and started trying to figure out, okay, that particular person that they used, where are they showing up on the on the public side of things as being associated with the role that they were clearly being identified as spoofing? And I couldn't find it, and it bothered me a little bit. Not that okay, you got me. So the company is upping their game and coming up with more creative spoofed phishing attacks to get people on because they want to win, but. I feel like they should also be based in some sort of reality that, what had to happen in order for a real bad guy to have the type of information that they had to put into that phishing email in the first place. Any comments?
I mean, we have seen the team. I mean, we have seen the Teams attacked, right? With the spoofed invitation. I mean, reconnaissance, right? If I know that if I am inside and I can see what you are using, a sophisticated attacker will learn your network and the social engineering map that they already have, and then they'll figure out, okay, how am I going? What tactics am I going to use here based on what I know? And so that is, I think that's. I mean, there's been plenty of instances where that's been documented, right? Where I can get in and I can recon. I'm not going to do anything right away, but I'm going to learn as much as I can so then I can actually make what I do count, right? And I think, that we have seen the Teams, and we are looking at, it's not only the email part that specific tactic, right? Where I send you what looks like a Teams invite because I know you're using it, and then it actually is phishing. But, it's if I can get inside of Teams, right, then I can maybe I have a compromised account and I could say, Karsten, take a look at this link or this file, which he and I do all day. So, if I sent him a weaponized file and he thought it was really me, he's going to open it and then.
Hey, Karsten, I found some hot singles in your area.
I'm avoiding them.
I'm going to use that on you tomorrow.
Let me ask you
look for it.
If you want hot singles, just go on our Slack channel. So to follow on what you're saying, my question then would be if you're really a bad guy and you're on the inside, and this is a serious question, what are you trying to accomplish with a phishing attack if you're already inside?
So that's where, again, I think it's going to depend upon who the attacker is. Again, if it's a script kiddie, they're just, I found out that he makes this much and she makes that much. But we've actually seen instances where the attacker was able to get an account, compromise the account, and just sit on it. They haven't sent any bad links. They're just sitting there watching and waiting. And what they're waiting on typically is either financial gain or intellectual property. So the moment I see that, okay, hey, this is trusted vendor, I need to pay Microsoft, right? And I need to do this, then I'm going to, Microsoft's not a good example. I need to pay this vendor where I buy my widgets from. Now I'm going to jump in and say, actually, we just changed our information. So don't send it here, send it to this new routing number, right? So I'm waiting for the right opportunity so that I can jump in and now steal money. Or, hey, I know you're about to send the blueprints or this new marketing plan or this new product you're about to release, but don't send it to this email, send it over there. So it's the waiting game, right? It's not always just about trying to make a botnet, but sometimes it's let me just sit on this account and see what else I can gather so I can then get more money.
And I might not be after you. I may be after somebody in your supply chain. You're in somebody's supply chain that I'm after, and so that's why I'm inside.
Don't forget,
you're a small fish, right?
And don't forget, Jeff, some of these tools, like I saw this just recently, some of these tools like Zoom are encrypted and they're punching holes into companies. And I could point you to a whole pile of people that have Zoom sites that set up anonymous meetings with people like university professors who get contacted and say, I'd like to meet with you about sending my son to your school. And you can push files through the chat and say, here's a file. If that's a backdoor Trojan or something like that, I mean, I sort of saw that the other day, and I mean, it was very straightforward and nothing triggered on that. I mean, the person was, it wasn't anything illegitimate, but the person was handing me files and going, here, can you take a look at this essay my son wrote, and it's coming through the chat instead of coming through all the usual channels. So that thing, if I had downloaded that directly on my desktop, that file would have gone from anonymous source outside into a secured environment with my approval. And so it's a lot of vectors there.
So a little bit of story time. I love magicians and I love street magicians. And the reason I love them is because of the sleight of hand. And I really like the ones that
you don't get scared and run away when they do their trick, do you? Because I've seen
no, I bust out laughing, then I run, then I come back. But not.
It's not clowns; it's magicians.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't say anything about clowns. That's a whole different touchy subject. But when it comes to the pickpockets and they're stealing your watch or they're stealing your wallet, right? It's because they're distracting you. And you think it's okay to look over your shoulder because there's no way he or she would do this. And so what you just explained is that there's no way they would try to attack me through a Zoom file share. There's no way I would, get an attack through a Microsoft Teams link. This is not email, and it's all because of distraction, because we are in the middle of COVID, because we have all this, social injustice, because every time you turn on the television, you see something else going on in the news. There are more and more distractions. And so I'm going to stay away from email, but text messaging, but cloud apps, but Google Drive, but, WeTransfer, but these other things. No one's going to attack me there. This is more trusted. And again, because you're distracted. So I don't have to evade all these layers in security. I'm just going to ignore them and take you to a place where you're a little bit more comfortable and familiar.
And I think it comes down. Just to double click on the Zoom thing for 1 second, really quickly. As the functionality of those platforms increase, like they can inadvertently open threat, new attack surfaces that that the user or the administrator has not adapted to and changed the configuration, right? So like the file sharing could be available instead of turning it off because it's probably a bad idea, right? Or limiting it to only internal communication or things like that. Like it's open, and so it's an attack vector, right? And that misconfiguration is a big reason why things will also get through.
This is what we've been talking about for SaaS as a service and SaaS abuse. Like that trusted platform abuse is where a lot of the attacks have moved to. And so really getting internal teams to understand the risk of single sign-on, of SaaS, of the SaaS as a service or SaaS as an attack platform. Those are all one and the same. The attacker may just want to figure out how or what software you're using, or if you're on a particular version of Office, or what your IP address is. All of these pieces tie into the breadcrumb that an attacker is going to use, and all of those can come through any of your trusted platforms. So really understanding what that risk is from a business standpoint, and then addressing what the business function of those platforms are, and if they're a valuable risk to the business, then you have to accept that risk and put mitigations in place.
Agreed. So this is a stat that's scary. The average number of cloud apps used by an employee is 36. The average employee uses 36 different cloud apps. And so you, as the defender, have to ask the question, are all of these truly sanctioned? Do we really need 36 different apps? And again, Mimecast is a SaaS provider, so I'm not saying that the cloud is bad, but I'm saying you really have to take a look at it. And again, Zoom, Teams, Slack, these companies are going to just keep increasing in popularity. And that's a good thing because it's taking a disconnected world and putting us closer together. But that's another threat vector, and you need a solution that can wrap around that and detect it.
And but to your point, Karsten, we use too many of these technologies. Like every user has 36 unique, maybe 20 unique ones. I can't tell you how many days have gone by where I'm like, I was in a Zoom meeting, a Teams meeting, a Ring Central meeting, a Skype meeting, a Google Meet. Like sometimes I'm like, can I make all 5 in one day? Like it's a game. Like can I get in all 5? Right? That's and how it's bad because each one, there's something about reducing your attack surface.
How many tools have embedded tools inside them? I mean, so if there's 36, how many of those 36 actually have other cloud-based components that are inside of those that we also aren't tracking?
How many use PHP, Doug?
Oh, come on. Nobody uses that.
Yeah, right.
Jamie and Karsten, I want to thank you both for the discussion.
I had one more question for Karsten.
I have 5 more questions for each of them, so make quick, Jeff.
I mostly just wanted them to see my background.
Stop it. Listen, that is not. I need to bring up one important thing. I need to address the elephant in the room. And this is serious. I know the real reason I was invited to this podcast is because my birthday was last week. And this is a good chance just to let people know it's too late to say happy birthday. It is not too late to send me presents. Don't send me a link.
I will say, Karsten is the most relentless over promoter of his birthday I've ever seen.
I love that though, because I as I get older, I don't want anyone to know when it's my birthday, and I want to just hide. I like that, Karsten, you embrace it and you own it and promote it. I think it's great.
I try to have my birthday around the same time every year so people don't forget it.
Yeah, I mean
nothing gets important.
And like if people were to send you gifts, like what would that? You know what?
Maybe or links to gifts.
Yeah, or what? Is it like scotch? Is it cigars? Is it sport coats? Like what?
There are 2 things that I really like. Okay, outside of money, because everyone likes money.
Money's great.
I like skillet cookies because they're amazing, and I like loaded tater tots. If you put cheese, bacon, and ranch,
Old Bay.
I don't see anything wrong with
it. Tater tots.
Yeah.
Old Bay tater tots.
I wasn't lying. I wasn't lying when I said I had 5 questions left for each of you. Are you both ready to play 5 questions with Security Weekly?
Let's
The
do
answer
it.
is yes.
Let's do it.
I need,
Jeff's sending you Old Bay tater tots.
while everyone's looking up tater tots, I'll start with you, Karsten. 3 words to describe yourself. Tater tot
Chosen.
lover is 1 word. I'm just saying we hyphenate it. It's yeah.
I would say chosen, relentless, and survivor.
Jamie, 3 words to describe yourself.
I'm a competitor, so I like to win. I am also relentless, and I think I am action-oriented.
Jamie, if you were a serial killer, what would be your weapon of choice?
Ooh.
Old Bay tater tots.
Old Bay tater tots. Weaponized fishing links.
Karsten, if you were a serial killer, what would be your weapon of choice?
I would have a powder that makes your back itch in a spot where you just can't reach it, and they would die of frustration.
Wow, that is oddly specific.
Yeah, like somebody's thought about this for a while.
Wow. That's got to be a decade worth of thinking that's gone into that.
Karsten, if you wrote a book about yourself, what would the title be?
Forgiven.
Jamie, if you wrote a book about yourself, what would the title be?
I couldn't program, so I'm a product manager.
Best answer ever.
Normally I just keep
And
going.
we have a winner.
It was one of those rare times, Jamie, when I just had to take the time to laugh out loud.
Yeah, that's
Jamie, in the popular game of Ask Grabby Grabby, do you prefer to go first or second? Now see, it's your turn. It's your turn to law. It's popular in Europe.
I don't know this game. I have to go first. I like to go first.
There you go. Karsten, and Ask Grabby Grabby, do you prefer to go first or second?
I'm sorry, what's the name of the game one more time?
It is Ask Grabby Grabby. It is a game played with permission. They're all willing participants.
Popular in Europe.
First, and then I would run because it just sounds strange.
Paul is mailing you a Get Started and Ask Grabby Grabby kit for your birthday.
It's your birthday gift. It is the winner's guide to Ask Grabby
The Old
Grabby.
Bay edition of Ask Grabby Grabby.
Karsten, choose 2 celebrities to be your parents.
Alive, dead, fictional, or otherwise.
Alive, dead, fictional, or otherwise.
Wow, I would say Will Smith, because dude is a beast. He's very
He gets jiggy with it. I get it.
Yeah, he gets
He raps happy.
No, I like Will Smith too. Yeah.
And Michelle Obama, because she's Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Jamie, 2 celebrities to be your parents.
I would say Samuel L. Jackson
Oh,
and Angela Bassett.
Outstanding.
Somebody's ass is getting kicked.
all those answers were just outstanding.
I know what I need. I know what I need, guys.
Wow.
That was a lot of fun. I mean, we probably could. I would have just been fine with the 5 questions. Maybe coming up with like 5 more and just talking with you guys. It was just so entertaining.
I'm good with it. This has been great. This has been a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. For folks that want to learn more, you can visit securityweekly.com/mimecast. Jamie and Karsten, thank you so much for appearing on Paul's Security Weekly. It was a blast.
Thank you, guys. Be safe.
Thanks, guys.
Coming up next, Michael Reutman from Kenna Security. Stay tuned.